Hello, everybody. Long time no see. I'm your host, Joseph. Welcome to Bad Big Games. And today we're going to talk about my thoughts of God of War 4, whether it is this game defining a generation, what makes this game so special, and does it really hold up to the hype? So, with all that said, with all that out of the way, Future Joe, roll the intro. Walking into this game, just like how I do with every video game, I talk about my expectations walking into God of War 4. And just like so many others who have picked up this game, which holy crap, is God of War just flying off the shelves. Over 3.1 million people have bought God of War 4 in the first 3 days. And just like so many of those people, I consider God of War 4 to be my first God of War game. Because always from the outside looking in, I could never get into the God of War series. Just like so many other people before me and so many reviews state this, I've tried to play God of War 1, I've tried to get into God of War 3, and I don't really know for sure what it was that disconnect when it comes to gameplay. I just never found myself getting into the series because of, well, Kratos as a character. Kratos just sucked. If I could be completely honest, he didn't just suck, but Kratos was an asshole. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of people like old Kratos, but to me, he was beyond unlikable. I should be rooting for this guy throughout God of War 1, 2, or 3, but every time I look at this game, he's just yelling. He's just upset. And I understand he has a right to be upset, but he just had the range of an angry paper bag. He was a product of his time, and to me, I look at God of War as a series and I ask myself, why am I so excited for God of War 4? And I'm not just talking about, ooh, I'm excited for this game. I'm talking about this game is my number one most anticipated game of 2018. And that's all because of the creative director behind this game, Cory Barlog. And Cory is also the co-founder of the God of War series. He co-created it alongside David Jaffe. And so he said some of the same things that I didn't like Kratos. He was one note. He was too angry. Things got out of hand sometimes. You couldn't relate to the character, so he wanted to make a more grounded, a more mature Kratos that we've been wanting to see. And at the same exact time, Santa Monica, the studio behind God of War, is trying to do something that I don't think a video game has ever done. A one camera shot, meaning there are no wipes, there are no cuts, there are no fade ins, fade outs. None of it. The camera follows you from start to finish on your journey. Meaning if you don't die in this game, you will never get a loading screen. That's crazy. So I was beyond interested, and topped with the fact of how good this game's reviewing, how Sony a week before this game comes out is so confident that this game has legs that it says, hey, drop your reviews a week and a half before the game comes out. And what do we see? 9s, 10s, perfect scores all around. And I'm not a one for numbered scores, trust me, believe me. But when people say, hey, this game is a game-defining generational moment, when this game is a generational defining game, it's hard not to get excited and a little fearful that it might not live up to the hype. So what makes this game so good? Is it good at all? Is it the combat? I mean, I can make a video on the combat alone, I'll be honest with you. It's fantastic. And yeah, to some critics, it's a slow burn at first, but damn, once the combat clicks, it's so amazing. It never feels like they're just throwing wave upon wave upon wave of enemies to overwhelm you and to make things different. But every enemy in this game has a purpose. They have a sense of direction. They have a strength and they have a weakness. It makes for a great balance of melee, axe, magic.
Magic. Motherfucker.
Combat, the fluidity of the combat, every power of every punch, the slash and the throw, the toss of an axe, the way your sound the Leviathan axe makes when you command it back to your hand, you feel like you're Thor and that your hammer is Mjolnir. It never gets old. It's such a satisfying experience. Everything makes you feel like I am a mythological character. I am some type of old god back from the dead. I am what makes me feel like a superhero.
Superhero landing. She gonna do a superhero landing. Wait for it. Superhero landing.
Yeah, I could talk about how great the combat is, but that is not what makes this game so special to me. I can talk about the beautiful level design, the attention to detail to this world. It truly makes me feel like this is in its world of its own, that it feels like it exists. It feels like I could take a plane and go there. The world is gorgeous. The sound design, the music. Oh God, the soundtrack of this game is so amazing.
You know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this.
The fact that the one-shot camera angle is true to its word. There is not one loading screen in this game, and that is a testament to the hard work and sacrifice that this team at Santa Monica made for this game. This all translates to an amazing game for sure, but it would be for nothing if it wasn't for the story Santa Monica wanted to tell. And that's what makes this game magnificent, is the characters. And today we're focusing on two. Atreus, and, as the ladies call him, Daddy Kratos. The main thing I want to applaud this game for doing is telling a personal story. There isn't some end-of-the-world doom and gloom scenario. There's no race to get to the launch codes in time. It's one of the main reasons why I love movies like Spider-Man Homecoming. It's because the fate of New Donk City isn't at stake. The fate of the world doesn't rest on Spidey's shoulders. The world's huge, but the scale of the story is small. It makes me beg for what's around the corner while at the same time giving you the personal element of the characters and their motives and what makes them tick. The through line is so simple, and that's what makes it so great, is that it's about a relationship between a father and a son. Strip away the mythology, strip away the powers and the fantasy, and what you have is a story about a father and a son who couldn't be any more different, yet at the same time, they're so similar. That the only thing that truly binds them, the only thing that really connects them, is the loss of the one person they care the most for, and the love for each other by blood. This story made me feel for Kratos. It made me feel with Kratos and connect with him in less than 5 minutes, something that the God of War series could never do up until this point. That it took 3 main games to do, but failed at, and this game did it in 5 minutes. The reason is that Kratos is different. He's seen and done some crazy shit.
I was at Chappaquiddick. The girl, Teddy Kennedy, the bridge, the car. I played a major role.
He has that anger, but it's festering inside of him. He's trying to be better. He wants to be better. Not for himself, but for his family, for his son. I know it sounds strange because it is, but I see my father in Kratos. No, my father is not a Greek god. Or does he have a magical runic blade? It would be totally badass if he did, but unfortunately, he does not. But they both come from a foreign place, and they've both traveled far for the woman they loved. My father crossed an ocean to be with a woman he fell in love with. He left it all, friends, family, familiarities that we take for granted to make something special here, to raise a family in a land that he has no attachment to, teaching himself enough English to read and write. Same with Kratos. I mean, not the family or friends part, but leaving those familiar places that he calls home. Furthermore, Kratos and my father, they're both stoic. They don't show much emotion, but you can sense it. It's trapped inside of them. They sacrifice. They don't take the easy way out. They always endure because that's what they have to for their family, for Atreus, for me. That sacrifice so that your kid could be better, so that your son or your daughter can have it better than you did. That's something we can all relate to. That's something we can all strive for. But that sacrifice, for some, that comes at a cost. For me and Atreus, the cost was connecting with your son. I see myself as Atreus 100%. He's born here. He's native to the lands. He's Norse first and whatever his dad is second. He knows the language. He knows the custom. He knows the politics. He knows the folklore. He knows the history and a love for it, a passion of learning. But what he doesn't know is that sacrifice. That's me, little innocent kid Joe. Boy, Atreus is that way as well. He's innocent. He doesn't understand the sacrifice, but he's not ignorant to the world. And that's what makes Atreus special. See, they couldn't be any different. You love each other because you're family, and family's all you know, but you don't know why you really love them. Seeing how Kratos wants to connect with his son, but doesn't know how, that breaks me every time I see it on screen. Because I was there in Atreus' shoes, knowing what I do know now of my father, seeing what he does, and truly understanding it, seeing it the same on screen and playing out in front of me, it killed me. There's a point in the game where something's happened to boy, Atreus, and you see Kratos wanting to comfort him. He has his arm out, but he doesn't know how to be comforting, so he doesn't. He sacrifices for him. He does the hard things, just like my dad did for me. But I never understood that as a kid. I don't really have a memory of me playing catch with my dad, but I understand and loved him because I knew that sacrifice. Hell, there's one scene in particular. It's just a simple conversation between Atreus and Kratos, and it kills me every time I watch it. It's a small scene in the grand scheme of things, but I remember this fight. And I remember this fight between Atreus and Kratos because I had the same argument. I had the same fight, just in way different context. It was like Cory Barlog was in the same room as me and my father as we argued and ripped each other apart emotionally. Seeing that disconnect, seeing Kratos and Atreus doubt the love that they hold for each other. I've been there more times than I can count. I remember my mother once saying how she was laying in bed with my father one night and my father suddenly burst into tears, an image that I've only seen twice in my life. I couldn't believe it. And he burst into tears because he didn't think I actually loved him. And that kills me to this day. I see in this game the relationship is what matters. It's what are you willing to sacrifice for each other? What are you willing to do for your child? What are you willing to do for your family? Would you be willing to kill? Would you be willing to die? Would you be willing to make the sacrifice just to make sure they're okay? Just so that they could find their peace? Just so that they can possibly be better than you can ever be? To me, that's what makes this story beautiful, is that the game is about sacrifice, family, and what you do for them. There's some brilliant characters in there. Brock and Sindri are amazing. The villains, the set pieces are phenomenal. But you take that all away, and what is a game? It's an experience. It's a story that's being told, and you need that story to hold. You need that story to impact. And for me, that's what makes this game so special, is that story, that personal story. Too many times is video games the same old thing. End of the world. Gotta stop it. Evil villain. Gotta stop him. But this game doesn't do that. It just has its own story it wants to tell. It shows and proves that single player games are not dead. They have a long life to live as long as you have a story worth telling. What takes it home for me is the dynamic between the father and son. That's what matters. This game would not be as good as it is if it wasn't for this story. If it was just same old angry Kratos, I'd still be rooting against him. The story would not hold any weight, but because the story is great, that we can all relate. We've all been there one point in our life. We all fight with our family, but we all love them either way for all of our faults because they're family. That's what makes this game amazing. When I think of games that have defined a generation, I think of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I think of Witcher 3. I think of BioShock. Would you kindly? God of War is not on that list. I think of my favorite games of all time. I think of The Last of Us. I think of Red Dead Redemption. But God of War 4 isn't on that list because it's more than that. God of War showed me the struggles of my father and related to me unlike any medium could. That's why God of War is easily my favorite game of all time. It's a game that I will think about at the end of this generation and forward. It is a game that I will show people games can't be art. Well, here you go. That's what this game is. This game shows that video game stories don't have to be some cliche bullshit, that they can be something more. They can be beautiful without being over the top. That's what makes God of War so great. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts of God of War 4 for the PlayStation 4. And yeah, the combat's amazing. The world is beautiful. The sounds in this game, the sound designer deserves the biggest pat on the back. But to me, I think the most important thing about this game, and why I wanted to make this video about God of War's story, is because it is so good. I have not experienced a AAA game like this in a very long time. I think the last game that's made me feel this much is The Last of Us. And I've beaten this game. I've put my over 40 hours in. I'm platinuming this game, but I continuously want to go back, restart this game, go on harder difficulties, and see what more secrets are lying behind this game, because it's just so wonderful. So in short, should you go out and buy God of War 4? Absolutely. If you own a PlayStation, why are you still here? Go out to your nearest GameStop, Best Buy, Amazon website, whatever the case may be. Go out there, buy God of War. It is a game of this generation. It is insane. What Legend of Zelda does for open world games, this does for storytelling. This does for the action game. It's seriously something amazing. The last question, I get this a lot: should I go out there, buy a whole system for this game? Usually, I would say you have to see it. If you have at least 3 or 4 games you're interested in, and you know are good games, like if Horizon, Uncharted, Bloodborne tickle your fancy, go out, buy a PlayStation. But to me, and I know this is overhyping it, but God, it's so good. Go out there, buy a PlayStation. This is worth the money. When I think of games, like how much would you pay to have your memory wiped? You know, I used to say this to some of my friends. I would pay $500, wipe the memory from Red Dead Redemption off of my head so I could play that game again. Same goes with God of War. And I literally did that. I bought a PlayStation 4 Pro limited edition. I got this 4K TV for this game, and it was worth every single penny. But what do I know? I'm bad at money. So with all that said, with all that out of the way, gang, it would mean a lot to me if you shared this video. I kind of shared my soul out here for you guys, and it would be greatly appreciated if you did drop a like, a share. I'm sorry this wasn't the most funniest video, but I think it was the most important one that I think I needed to do for myself. So with that said, if you liked it, please subscribe, hit that bell, because, you know, YouTube now. And I want to give a special thanks to our patrons over at patreon.com/makeusbetter. We have so many excellent people supporting us. We have people from the platinum level like Mr. Corey Hicks, like the glorious one himself, Mr. Moody, which I was just on his podcast, the Glorious Movie Cast. So you should go down there. You should check out Mr. Moody's podcast. Anyway, with that said, we have awesome people like Tony Baker, Sheldon Benedict from Quest for Pixels, helping us out as well. So with that said, I'm not going to stutter and butcher any more names. Thank you all so much for donating, for being a patron. It does help us out so much. With all that said, with all that out of the way, keep your wits about you. Have a great one.